Good evening, I'm Patricia Vallone with a CTV News update. With 6 days until the 2020 presidential election, early voting continues in the state. At the Bowie Gymnasium this morning, the line was wrapped around the building as people were eager to cast their ballots. Some people told us they would rather vote in person instead of mail-in because it's a tradition for them. Meantime, campaign staff members say they're out talking with voters to make sure they're informed about the candidates.
Campaigning, period, especially in your own local area, that's where you're going to be most impacted. So early voting, the earlier you get out, the more people you can affect, the more people, you can just expose to this information. It's not about really pressing the issue of who to vote for, but it's just providing that information so people are informed.
We are here as a show of support for every single person coming out, regardless of party, even though we do represent the Democrats. We are here really encouraging everybody to use their right to vote.
For a full list of voting locations, you can visit PRINCEGEORGESCOUNTYMD.GOV. And on the third day of early voting in Kentland, unlike Bowie, there were no long lines at the polling center. Considering the spike in COVID-19 cases, we asked residents why they chose to vote in person.
I just wanted to make sure my vote counted, so I would do whatever I needed to do to get it to count.
To be honest with you, there is no offense to that. We just did not open the mail on time to do it.
It was a painless process, quick in and out, and I'm glad I did it.
Early voting continues in Maryland through November 2nd. A Harford County man sues the Board of Elections following his arrest this week as he attempted to vote without a face mask. 52-year-old Daniel Swain and his son Luke are seeking a temporary restraining order against the Elections Board and others. Officials say the Falston man was offered a face mask as well as the option of voting at an outdoor booth. The suit alleges that the order violates constitutional and federal laws. Maryland remains under an order that requires masks in all public places. More than a decade ago, the Maryland General Assembly decided that slots were such a controversial issue that the decision on whether to expand gambling was left to voters. Ever since then, anytime there's a change to gambling law in the state, it must go to referendum. Now, another ballot question seeks to expand gambling to sports. Nancy Sarang with the League of Women Voters explains how Question 2 would add sports betting in Maryland.
From the beginning, voters were told that the profits from gambling would go towards education. However, until we passed another constitutional amendment, the money that was raised by gambling was used to supplant money for education rather than supplement it. So there's education formulas out there that determine how much money needs to be spent on schools, right? And everybody thought that when gambling came in, that the schools would get even more money. What it did was the gambling revenue was used instead of general fund revenue to meet the formulas. However, there was so much concern about that another constitutional amendment was passed that gradually phased in the idea that revenue earned through gambling would be in addition to any formula required funding that the general fund already has to pay for.
The referendum does little to explain how sports betting would be implemented. A bill addressing that issue was under consideration in the 2020 legislative session just as the pandemic hit. The measure quickly and unanimously passed the Senate without discussion. Lawmakers then called for the current referendum to go to voters before the session was cut short. Meantime, there was music and dancing for voters in Bowie this morning. A line dance troupe called Music to Your Feet performed for early voters as they waited in line. They visited Duval High School yesterday. Instructor Denise Bryant says she wants to visit as many polling sites as she can.
It's very important to be out here for this because voting is so important this year. More than ever, it's very important. Very important. And I have a few of my dancers with me today also, just to spread a little joy for the voters.
The County Health Department will host another pop-up testing site in Hyattsville. The event will take place this Friday, October 30th at the Langley Park Community Center. Residents can get tested for COVID-19 from 9 to 11 a.m. Appointments are not necessary and you don't need a doctor's note. Again, the event will run from 9 until 11 a.m. At least 5,400 households have applied for eviction prevention in Montgomery County, and 22% of them will soon be getting conditional award letters to present to their landlords. According to WTOP, the jurisdiction released the info weeks after the council criticized County Executive Mark Elrich for not being forthright on where coronavirus relief funds were going. The update included information on 25% of applicants who had their claims denied. Reasons for denial include eligibility issues such as tenants who were not behind on their rent or the inability to prove loss of income due to the coronavirus. Scattered flooding, is a possibility over the next 2 days as the D.C. region will find itself dealing with the remains of another storm. The moisture will come from Hurricane ZETA after it heads up from Louisiana, where it touched down today. Forecasters predict a soaking rain that starts late tonight with 2 to 3 inches for much of the region as it continues from early Thursday into Friday morning. Plan accordingly, particularly if you live in a low-lying area along streams or travel in a vulnerable roadway. And don't forget to clean out gutters and storm drains. The investigation into a crash in Bladensburg that left 44 people displaced continues. It was yesterday morning at about 8:30 when a car rammed into an apartment in the 5400 block of Newton Street. Crews evacuated the building and condemned it due to structural damage. Firefighters found the car inside an apartment that was occupied at the time. The driver was transported to a nearby hospital. Prince George's police are investigating a fatal shooting on 75th Avenue in Landover last night. That's where they found 22-year-old Andre Cox with gunshot wounds near an apartment building. The victim was taken to a nearby hospital where he was pronounced dead. Anyone with information is asked to call police. Well, Prince George's police, meantime, are investigating a fatal collision involving an unmarked D.C. police SUV and a bicyclist. Investigators say a man was riding the bike on the westbound lanes of East Capitol Street at Southern Avenue yesterday when he was hit by an on-duty officer. Police say the vehicle's emergency lights and siren were activated. The man, who has yet to be identified, was taken to a local hospital and pronounced dead. The county relaunches a housing program to help residents experiencing financial hardships. The county's housing department is now requiring property owners and landlords to submit applications to the revamped Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Since the initial launch back in May, the program has aided 650 families.
The goal is to provide assistance. We know that there are any number of families in the county that are struggling to pay rent. Not only in Prince George's County, but throughout the state of Maryland. The state of Maryland has also offered assistance, and for that matter, many other states and jurisdictions. And so we want to ensure that this valuable resource, specifically the Coronavirus Relief Fund, is made available and effectively utilized by those persons who need assistance and to have the security of a home for their families. And so the rental assistance program relaunch allows us to do that.
The deadline to submit an application for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program is Tuesday, November 10th. Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and to provide support for local families during the COVID-19 pandemic, 2 local organizations are teaming up with the town of Capitol Heights. The Empowerment Center and Be Unlimited are asking for donations for its A Day of Thanks food drive. The organizations are accepting non-perishable items on November 10th and 14th at the town of Capitol Heights. They plan to distribute at least 50 boxes of food to needy Prince George's residents on November 21st.
We want to be that support because this is a time where we have many people who are unemployed or underemployed due to the COVID pandemic, and people are struggling. And for those who are quite blessed and still have their jobs, we want to be a support mechanism for them.
And you must register for the food drive. For more information, call 3017-93-1386. Well, in sports news, the Los Angeles Dodgers are celebrating their World Series champs. The Dodgers defeated Tampa Bay 3-1 last night to take the series. It's the first championship for Los Angeles in 32 years. Meantime, the game ended with a bit of controversy. Dodgers third baseman Justin Turner learned that he was COVID positive last night and was told to isolate. However, Turner came on the field to take part in a post-game celebrations with his teammates. Well, let's get a check now of your 3-day weather forecast. Tonight, cloudy with rain expected and a low of 55 degrees. Thursday, rainy with a high near 62 and a low of 45. Friday, the rain continues with a daytime high near 52, dropping to a low of 35. And you may see frost early Saturday morning. The sun will return later in the day, though. Temps reach a high near 51 and an evening low around 40. And now for your community calendar, calling all parents, Prince George's Public School CEO, Dr. Monica Goldson, will host a telephone town hall meeting tonight at 8 p.m. Officials will offer updates and answer any questions that families may have regarding distance learning. They will contact you, the registered families, directly with information about tuning in. To listen to the event in Spanish, you can call 508-924-5155. And that is your CTV News Update. I'm Patricia Valone. Have a great night.
For the latest information on COVID-19 in Maryland, visit the State Health Department website. That's health.maryland.gov. Again, health.maryland.gov. Click the link to the COVID-19 information portal. There you'll find all the latest information about coronavirus. You'll find daily updates on cases and fatalities. Answers to questions about testing and the governor's stay-at-home order are available as well. For specific information about Prince George's, visit PrinceGeorgesCountyMD.GOV. That's PrinceGeorgesCountyMD.GOV. The site offers information about local services for residents and businesses. There's a link for COVID-19 relief donations. Also, food pantry locations are listed. And if you have any questions, call the county COVID-19 hotline at 301-883-6627. That's 301-883-6627.
My God.
It's another sad day in America.
Painful to be introduced to George Floyd during his last breath. With the cop's knee on his neck. He deserved so much more.
How many black lives have to be taken before something is done?
We are not a threat.
I am shaking as I type.
This has got to stop.
We are sick of it.
We need conviction.
I just want us all to live.
The deaths will not stop until the powers that be are finally held accountable.
Don't look away from the truth until every one of us are free from white supremacy.
The world stands with you.
Criminalizing and killing of black and brown bodies is not new. It's as old as America. It's just getting filmed more.
Do you know what it feels like to be hunted? To have a new hashtag for a dead black person every single day? How does one plan a life if they aren't sure they will have a life to plan?
Deborah Dan,
Nina Pop, Stephen Clark, Nia Wilson,
Keisha Mike,
Christopher Dion,
George Floyd. His name was George Floyd. Say his name.
Say his name.
George Floyd. Say his name.
Say their names. Once again and always, we fight for justice. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Rest in power, beautiful.
Go to blacklivesmatter.com.
Hey Maryland, Election Day is almost here. Stay safe and avoid the lines by voting early. Visit an early voting center near you October 26th through November 2nd between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. Or vote on Election Day, November 3rd between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. Confirm vote center locations ahead of time. Same-day voter registration is available. If you're voting by mail, return your ballot by 8 p.m. on November 3rd. Visit elections.maryland.gov/2020 to find a vote center near you.
It's not.